All right, all right. Happy Friday, everybody. This is your main man, Preacher Moss, the host of the ShOUT Show, coming to you live from my computer. Thank goodness for MacBook Pro. Listen, this is the Friday I've been waiting for. Not because it's Friday, because a lot of us are stuck inside, and we look at Friday as like a benchmark. Like Friday means something, it means you made another week. I don't know about anyone else. But it has been that thing where you have a run-on days that is just all together. It's like Monday, Friday, or Monday, Saturday. And I think some of us are kind of going through that. And then there's some issues about people going a little cabin crazy, a little stir crazy. And I don't mean to use the word crazy and derogatory. That's old school. But it is important to acknowledge that people in this situation, it's not a natural situation. We're not used to being inside. We're not used to being told to stand apart from one another. We're not used to wearing masks. It's a whole new world out there in terms of us getting out and literally seeing what's out in the world. But my point to you, all of you, is that there is something. There is something to look forward to, and that is it won't last forever. It won't last forever. I think we need to start looking at, in this particular show, I just thought it'd be kind of fun, maybe a little bit, to actually start thinking about what the world is going to look like after we don't use the word COVID-19 every other 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. I wonder where we are in terms of the medicine, where we are in terms of social adjustment. That's something that we're not really talking about. We're not really talking about the social adjustment that has to happen after COVID-19 has a vaccination, or we get to a saturation point or herd immunity, however they're talking about it. My point is, we are in a situation, brothers and sisters, where things are crazy. I know that this COVID-19 is serious because we have not heard the word Islamophobia almost all the way through Ramadan. That's a hot seller for fundraising, using the word Islamophobia. It can't even, we're talking about COVID-19 and frontline soldiers, and I think we should. We are evolving in a lot of ways. And I think, for the first part, I think it's important. I want to shout out my boy, Earth Yusuf. Listen, brother, I saw your post not on Instagram, but on YouTube. And I just want you to know, man, whatever you're going through, we got your back, man. Don't feel like you're isolated. We're all one big family. You can hit me on Facebook. We can connect. But don't feel like you got to go through anything on your own. Sister Layla, how are you? That's what Alaikum Assalam Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. I'm just telling people I really want to talk about this whole thing about post-COVID-19, because that's going to be a real big thing, man. I think people aren't ready for it, and we're not really talking about it because things are just so pressed in the urgency that we're seeing now. People are looking. I like that, Sister Deborah, need to take a coronation. Something don't sound right about that, Sister Deborah. I don't mean to be funny, but I don't want no coronation. That sounds like you wake up with your shoes on the wrong feet. In any event, I want to take some advice. One of the things I do is, as some of you guys know, yes, I'm a comedian. I'm also a consultant. My consultancy is transition services, and with especially in risk assessment. I have been trying to figure out, maybe since the beginning of the full-on COVID crisis, like, what are we going to be looking at as a society when this thing ends? Like, I'll give you an example. COVID-19 disproportionately affects people of color, particularly Blacks and Latinos. What does a George Lopez show look like? What does a Def Jam show look like, or Mike Epps show look like, knowing that African Americans and Latinos are prime suspects for COVID? Do you really come to those shows? What's going on, Big T? Like, what do those shows look like? I think one of the best things we can take is, this idea, this really idea, it's not vague. It's a nuanced idea about understanding, number one, none of us is gonna live here forever. My grandfather said, ain't none of us gonna get out here alive. That's number one. Number two is we have this obsession now. It's a legitimate obsession with COVID-19 to the point where we don't look any further. Like I mean, think about this, man. I was riding, going to get some groceries a while back. That's right, I do the grocery shopping. I was riding and I saw a slew of stores that were all dark. And my point in saying this, I was like saying that I don't really think that those stores are necessarily going to be back. I'm talking about products and services. You have a whole new generation of people who are coming out of jobs who are not going to be working in a brick and mortar shop anymore. I'm talking about they're going to be working at home. And it sounds really beautiful to work at home. You think of, hey, you get up, you get in front of your computer, and maybe you take a shower about 2:00. This is my main man. Hey, man, Tyler, big ups, man. Miss you, brother. Miss you. Give everybody my love back in Master Muhammad. So this whole idea of what everything's going to look like after COVID-19. Now, I'm a comedian. I can tell you now, and I've said this before, there's a real chance, we're talking likelihood, that I won't be live on stage until fall 2021. Meaning in front of a crowd of people more than 10, 2021. My business in my industry has problems with production because to do productions, to put on TV and movies and stuff like that, you have to have big crews. You have to have a lot of manpower. And with the restrictions that are involved, even if you had a regular crew, the possibility for COVID wrecking up the whole crew, I'm talking about the whole movie, shutting the movie set down, shutting the craft services down, shutting the police down to come. I mean, this thing is just a domino effect. I am looking at the fact that I'm gonna have to shift gears in terms of a career. Now, I've been blessed that I'm a writer. I'll give you a prime example. Just the idea of the ShOUT show in its original form, people, I was supposed to have a crew. We would go out, we shoot funny skits. In the beginning of it, I come out in a nice tie, nice bow tie, blah, blah, blah. And I would come out and literally, I do a couple minutes of monologue, and then we go to the skit and have a guest and keep it up. Allah knows best. You know the line. Allah plans. Well, God plans, man plans, God laughs. Okay, this is a prime example of that. Okay, but my point is, you have a whole scenario. Big Earth, miss you, dude. Got to get back down under. Big Earth, everybody. Show him some love. Make the walk for Big Earth. Thank you for coming on the show, man. I see you got that message off Facebook. I got you, Big Earth. But the whole idea now is things are flattened, and people are not talking about this. So I want to talk about it. I've talked about it before on an episode. If you watch the episodes, there was an episode called Creativity in the Age of COVID. I want people to watch that one again because I said something and I'm going to revisit it. The fact that the world is flattened, meaning that a lot of the things that will keep you from getting into certain businesses are not there. Like for me to put on a TV show would take thousands and thousands of dollars, editing, people like that. But this is the new thing. You can get right on your computer and have a show and you can go direct to people. I'm giving Earth from Sydney, and this is my little brother, right? He's funny dude, man. Nazim Hussein. Listen, we are looking at a dynamic now where we are spending an enormous amount of time with family. And I'm talking about family. Like, we love our family, but it's nothing for a husband to wake up from a deep sleep with a black eye because his wife punched him in his sleep because it's just, they can't handle it. They break it down. And this is a good point. We're talking about entertainment. Summer drive-in shows. That's a great point. I guess the cars got to be, 12 feet apart, but you can't get concessions. You have to bring your own, just like you used to do because you didn't want to pay. But that's a whole nother story. Listen, I'm looking at the dynamic of family, the stress. There's a stress of families being around one another repeatedly, like high frequency. Like there is actively in the Muslim community, and I'm sure other communities, but there's a grieving process that you don't have your friends that you can go to. And those people are a break away from your family. You love your family. You want to be you will die for your family, but for 4 or 5 hours, you don't need to be around them. You got to do other things. I'm telling you. Hey, look, you spend as much time with your family. Yeah, you love them, but sometimes you look at them like, uh, if they left for 2 or 3 days and didn't come back or call, I'd be all right. I'd be all right. That's just love. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying, these are some of the things that we are looking at. Look at the idea of schools. Look at the idea of schools. Now, y'all know I used to be a former school teacher. One of the things I remember with school was kids are germ factories. We love the kids. They're germ factories. Now you're talking about COVID. We're not talking about the normal snotty nose, flu, cough. How you doing, Miss Ma? We're not talking about that. We're talking about coughs that kill. Now, and we're talking about kids being asymptomatic. Now, here's a theory. This is a preacher Moss. I'm not a doctor theory, but I got a lot of common sense theory. Here's my theory. We talk about people being asymptomatic, but you're talking about COVID-19 really being it's a virus. And I have to say virus because I saw our president 45 talk about antibiotics killing a virus. As we know, antibiotics kill bacteria. Bacteria is a living thing. Virus requires a hope. Donald Trump, and I don't want to say this on a Friday, so close to June, but it's on my heart. I mean, he's the only man who can make George Bush look smart and Richard Nixon look innocent. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what we're gonna do with this guy. No, and a lot of people. I know I'm not the only one. When he catches COVID, if he doesn't already have it, we're gonna be like, there you go, and everybody's gonna send him a lot of disinfectant, and we're gonna get him on a ventilator in a black barbershop in Atlanta. Okay, I'm back. Look. This is very important right here. Corporate America is gaslighting us to return us to the old way of living. This is true. And that old way of living is that we don't ask questions. That old way of living is we don't ask questions. We ask permission. And this is one of the things that's been dogging me ever since this coronavirus happened. It's people having to ask permission to tell the truth. Like this Dr. Fauci guy, I don't know how long he's going to last, but you see the crew, he doesn't even bring out doctors anymore. He brings out people who are in his carpool from his living room to the Oval Office. I mean, this guy, I'm sorry, man. Look, my grandfather said something, and he said, some people you're going to run into, son. He said, here's a clue. He said, never have an argument with a man that's smoking a cigarette and pumping his gas at the same time. That's 45. Okay, my point is, what are these situations going to look like? Because I personally feel like the rush to get people back to work, the quote unquote essential jobs, are the jobs that low income and African American and Latino and impoverished people do for it's a lot of work and no money. Because this is the real thing now. This is the real economy. The real economy is when the people who are really, really, really rich go, oh my gosh, I'm losing money. And that money is built on the back of, this particular labor, getting them out. But the labor is thinking. The labor is thinking. In fact, if I was somebody in one of these essential roles and they wanted me to go back with no PPE, I would treat myself as an independent contractor, entrepreneur, and I would negotiate a new rate to go back. So if they wanted me to go on them funky pig farm factories, ladies and gentlemen, if you see Preacher Moss in one of these funky factories, I want you to know that my salary is going to be $275,000. That's all I'm saying. That's all. And you can hate me. I can deal with pig for $275,000 and some insurance. Okay, now moving away from that, what is going to be the temperament of people in our social atmosphere actually dealing with one another? For the last, I don't know how many weeks, the mosque has been closed. And the mosque being closed, for a day or something like that, is, okay. But I'm talking about over a long period of time. Like, I'm an old school Muslim, and I know we got old school Muslims on there. Okay, I know we have old school Muslims. But you know that going to the mosque is something you do religiously. It's about your religion, but you do it religiously. That is a hub of social interaction. That's where you get your information. That's where you get your spiritual renewal. It's like, and it's just been closed. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not used to watching Juma on my big screen TV. I'm just keeping it real. I am not. I mean, I've tried. It just doesn't work. You praying, the man's praying this way. You got to pray this way. It just doesn't work. Certain things don't happen. But the thing I'm thinking about is, how do we get our matches started? Big Enrique, walaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ramadan Mubarak, big brother. I'm talking about, how do we jumpstart spiritually? Because this is the thing that I'm really, 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 really working on. Okay? This is the thing I'm really, really working on. And it's beginning to happen, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. We're beginning to have breakdowns in the Muslim community. Well, we have breakdowns anyway. But now it's really, really breakdowns because you don't have the mobility. It used to be, I'm just saying, I feel a tension. There's a weird tension, and it shouldn't be there. But it comes from just not being able to practice the religion around other folks. So that's one of the things I will talk about. And I think we need to actually have a conversation about that, possibly before we even get back to the masjid. I know Imam Tyler Sharif is on here. I think we need to have reorientation classes before we come back in the masjid. We need to have some Zoom meetings about how we get back and connect. I mean, do you know how many people are out of work because the masjid is closed? Think about it. That brother who every Friday, we don't know who he is or where he comes from, but every Friday he comes up to the front of the masjid to tell everybody to move up. That brother's out of work. He didn't get a stimulus check. Remember the brother that tells you where to park? He hasn't had a car in 30 years, but he's telling you where to park? What about that brother? What about the brother at the W.D. Muhammad masjid that sells the Muslim Journal that are 2 years old, 15 years old? What about him? Where's the love, people? We need to get our folks back to work. Okay, I'm being facetious. So all I'm going to say is two things. Number one, seriously, we need to figure out, particularly for Muslim parents, we have to figure out what the school system is going to look like. I'm not a product of public school. I went to private schools from sixth grade to 12th grade. I do have a really, really deep understanding of how schools are funded. And with the tax base being cut because nobody's working, I really have a problem about how they're going to actually reopen the schools. It may be a situation where kids are going to have to stay in remote learning longer because they just don't have the base. And that will be the space where they let go support staff. That's your cooks, your janitors, assistants in the room, some teachers that don't actually teach in the classroom. And I mean, I think it's going to be corporatized where people are going to have to take pay cuts. So you're going to get furloughed. That's one, because it affects the quality of education for the children. Number two, I feel like socially, this thing, and I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but this thing plays into a weird scenario going into the 2020 election because there's not an opportunity to build consensus, particularly if you're opposition. It's not really an opportunity to build consensus. And I'll say this one thing about Trump and his supporters, they have consensus. They have a lot of other issues like dementia, lunacy, and all that. But they do have consensus. You got to give them a credit, man. They will stick together. They will stick together. We haven't had a chance to congeal in terms of opposition. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Libertarian, or Democrat. There's certain things about having a caucus. I don't think that's going to happen. And I believe that the bigger problem was, and the example was actually in Wisconsin, when they made people in the height of a corona surge, they made people go to the polls physically and vote. I'm like, that's against the law. So, and in Milwaukee now, they opened up. I'm gonna tell you, I went to school in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a beer town. They opened up the bars. The bars were packed. So you're going to get some real corona with your corona. Is one of them. It's going to be some people in the hospital with a corona. So here, this is another thing I want you to think about. Today I have to jump off because I have to officiate a fundraiser. It's a virtual fundraiser. People, these are the worst things in the world. I don't know, I guess it's out of necessity, but again, to a point I was saying, when everything went south with Corona and a lot of nonprofits had to figure out how to raise money, they missed some things, which was the fact that people have to be inculcated. People have to be oriented to coming to a computer and sitting down and being there for an hour. And, like when I did All It Made Me Funny, the biggest thing I had to do with Muslims was to get in their mind that they had to show up on time. So this is an interesting thing. And, of course, we have run it into the ground in terms of internet fundraisers. But my point is, coming back to what I was saying, coming out of COVID, I believe that we really need to take that time, if you will, and start orienting. We need to have some talking points for our families, talking points where we work, reintroducing ourselves. Actually, this is a great opportunity to reintroduce ourselves, minus the BS that normally goes on in the employment place, minus the BS that normally goes on in the masjid. I mean, this should be a wake-up call for the Muslim community because, how many of you guys know them? I mean, the amount of janazas that are happening. I was reading, I think it was Huffington Post. They were talking about this one funeral home would do 365 janazas in a year. They're talking about doing 400 a month. 400 a month, people. So please, as much as I joke, I do want people to take it seriously that this corona thing is out there. And don't let people fool you. Use your rational mind. Use your rational mind, your natural mind. This is a virus, just like influenza is a virus. Think about this, and I won't hold you long, but think about this. If you are a virus, it means that you need to have a host. So if you talk about something affecting your immune system, think about your immune system on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, the weakest. So 5 is, you're gullible or you're vulnerable. This virus, I realized, to me, it may come at you the first time, it may come at you, but your immune system is too high. So maybe it's a 10, maybe it's an 8, but maybe it catches you when you're 5 or 4 and it does the most damage. Thus, you're talking about a vaccine that is at least 18 months away, in my mind. So I'm looking at how they did the trials for Ebola back in the day. They figured out the stuff that they're coming out of the remdesivir or whatever it is. That's what they used when they tried to solve Ebola. They realized they couldn't solve Ebola because it had a 50 to 55% kill rate. So this stuff, I said, I thought this might work. But now you have a situation scenario. It works, or it will work, if we keep the amount of new infections now, which I don't see because people are running out to the beach. I want my rights. And another thing, what does not wanting to be in shelter in place have anything to do with you carrying a firearm? See, certain things don't match. This is my certain things don't match face. Certain things don't match. So ask yourself some of the questions in your own mind. Don't wait for other people. I say this, don't ask permission to be great. Being great means you're going to see a situation, you're going to move up, and you're going to step into it. I'm going to give a shout out to my sister Riri. Imam Zaid, I saw your program yesterday. It was excellent. Thank you. I'm going to ask everybody to be critical thinkers and move forward. Don't be afraid to be great. Ask questions. Begin your own post-COVID-19 plan and be ready when the time comes. All right, everybody? Listen, have a great weekend. I will see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Preacher Miles, have an excellent weekend. Peace now.